What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video that I did not want to make today. It's New Year's Eve, right? I even had a list. Yeah, I was organised. I had a list. Do all this FPL stuff, do this article, do that article, do this stuff on Patreon, get the captaincy video uploaded, get team selection done. It was all pretty much done, and then the Premier League decide to announce there's extra fixtures. There's extra fixtures in Game Week 18, there's extra double game weeks in Game Week 19. And I thought, right, now I have to do a video. And I love doing videos, don't get me wrong, but on New Year's Eve, come on, give us a break. And the deadline is tomorrow as well, which just makes it even worse because it's chaos, right? And maybe when I sit down and think about it for a little bit longer, it won't be so bad. I'll have my plan and it won't feel awful, but tomorrow is the deadline. I'm going to be hungover. I don't want to be making decisions about double game week 19. And it has thrown a bit of a spanner in the works for some people. Not for others. For some, they're just going to do the same chip strategy they did before. It's not that big a deal. Fair enough, job done. For me, it's difficult. I won't lie. Right? I've looked through lots of permutations and I'm finding it hard to decide exactly what to do. So in this video, I'm going to do it like my other chip strategy video. I'm not going to pause. I'm going to try not to pause anyway. I'm not going to take too many breaks and edit it together. I'm just going to do it in one take and just go through my thoughts as I go. Because sometimes I think it's the best way to do these videos. And at the end, there'll be muchos tinkering, right? There's going to be a lot of tinkering to show you what the hell is currently on my mind. So yeah, let's just go, right? So what's happened? Okay, so the Premier League have announced that Burnley versus Man United is going to be played on Tuesday, 12th of January. That's blank game week 18, right? So there's no double game week for Man United, no extra double game week, but it does mean the Burnley Man United play in 18, right? So that obviously changes things straight away because they play in 17, they play in 18, and they got a double game week in 19. So straight away, I'm already thinking, if you've not got chips, you've got Burnley and Man United players, that helps you out. You've got an extra set of players in 18, and still they double in game week 19. So that's good. The bigger one, which is more of the curveball for me, in some ways but not others, is on Wednesday the 20th of January, Man City are going to play Aston Villa. Now, that gives them another game in Game Week 19. So Man City and Aston Villa are both doubling in Game Week 19. Now, I'll come on to the fixtures in a bit. They're not as good for Villa as they are for City, and it's really changed things when it comes to Manchester City for me. So here's what happens, right? It makes them much more desirable. You can forget about the fact that Kevin De Bruyne is no good or Sterling's no good or whatever. You don't want their defenders. I do think this changes things. So in Game Week 17, Man City will play Chelsea, right? Whether or not you've got Man City players, it probably doesn't matter. And obviously, it's worth saying, we still don't know what's going on with kind of further postponements. We've not heard anything from Fulham or Man City to make me think their fixtures will definitely be called off in Game Week 17. But we don't know for sure. But the fact the training grounds reopen, I expect they will play. So Chelsea are playing Man City in 17, so not a worry. But then in 18, they play Brighton at home. We already knew that. Decent fixture. In 19, they now play Crystal Palace at home and Aston Villa at home. And this is what I was saying about Salah, right? He had United and Burnley at home, which looked good. But there was probably going to be better down the line. I think this is better. I think Sterling and De Bruyne against Palace at home and Villa at home is better than Salah against United and Burnley. So straight away, potential for a different triple captain or just a different captain altogether, depending on whether you're using the triple captain or bench boosting still. And then, as we already knew, the fixtures afterwards are West Brom, Sheffield United and Burnley. So all that's happened is Aston Villa's gone into Game Week 19. But I do think it changes things quite a lot. It makes Man City extremely desirable for 18, 19 and beyond, all the way up to 22. And also, again, a bit like Man United, if you get them in for Game Week 18, so let's say you've got Cancelo, Diaz and De Bruyne. Not only have you got, hopefully, 3 players that are going to play in Game Week 18, but you've also got 3 that have got really good fixtures in Game Week 19. So, again, that might change your free hit and wildcard strategy or bench boost strategy altogether. And I should say, in this video, I'm not looking to give advice about what you should do. I'm trying to give advice of what's happening and how it's changing things for me. You're still going to have to work it out for your team because in our Patreon Slack channel, I've seen people sticking to their strategy. Some people are wildcarding, some people are changing slightly. And it is going to depend on your team setup. And you'll see that when I talk about my team a little bit later on, right? For Villa, it does change things as well. They now have a double game week. So straight away, if you've got Emiliano, have I pronounced that right? Emiliano, I think so. Martinez in goal. Okay, the fixtures aren't great. United, then Spurs, then Everton and Man City is the double. But he has a double game week and he's a goalkeeper, so he can rack up points nice and easily sometimes with saves. Then it's Burnley, Southampton, West Ham, Arsenal, Brighton. So I would say the Villa's fixtures are quite good after the double game week. And they're not ideal before, but the fact that they now have a double game week does make them a little bit more desirable in terms of keeping them, potentially. Especially Martinez, maybe Grealish, El Ghazi, a cheap option with penalties, etc. Ollie Watkins, a cheap forward who's going to play as well. Makes them more desirable. And if you're free hitting in game week 18, you're missing that fixture anyway. So it's just Man United away, then a double game week, and then some good fixtures. So I really like the idea of keeping Villa. They're not essential by any means because their double game week is not easy by any means, but it does make them a bit easier to hold on to. And if you were going to bench boost, like I was with Johnston and Martinez, that would then give you 2 double game week goalkeepers, right? So that's decent as well. And obviously, just to quickly touch on it, game week 18 now has an extra fixture. So if you already had like 6 or 7 players and you had Fernandes and maybe you had Pope or probably not Taylor because he's probably going to be injured, or someone else from Burnley, Chris Wood, for example, you might now have 7, 8, 9 players in game week 18 that you're happy with. And basically, Burnley and Man United has been added to this now. So all the game weeks we had before are the same. So all the fixtures, So Man City versus Brighton, Villa versus Spurs, etc. They're all still in there. But Burnley versus Man United is in there as well. So that brings extra players into play, especially Bruno Fernandes, who most people now own, right? So it maybe makes game week... It does 2 things to game week 18. It makes it, 1, a bit easier to navigate without a free hit, and 2, gives more free hit options, right? So you can laugh, but like someone like Harry Maguire against Burnley, getting Rashford and Fernandes in against Burnley are all potential options now. So that's game week 18. Some initial thoughts, right? And I got to be honest, I'm still trying to process all this. It couldn't have come on a worse day. I thought all the stuff happening before Christmas was mad. This is just as mad. We might have to think about changing our strategies. Again, like I said at the start of the video, not everybody is going to have to change their strategy, right? And I think all that stuff before I did on chip strategy, like most of the players are still the same that I would want to target, right? So Bruno Fernandes, Salah, Robertson, potentially Chelsea defenders if they're fit, triple leads, double leads, whatever it might be. I think they've still got a good double game week. So far, right, it's all the same. So if you want to see the players that I'm looking to target, you can watch that video. The only real difference here is that the blank game week 18 becomes a bit easier to navigate. And for me, Man City players just become way more desirable than they were before. And if you've got Villa, happy days. So you might not have to change your strategy, but some people will. So for me, for example, I'm now considering, do I need to ignore the bench boost? Like, how much value do I place on Kevin De Bruyne, right? Because for me, he makes a lot of difference to my transfer strategy now. Because if I want him in, it takes a couple of moves to do it. And it's not going to allow me, because my next 2 transfers were basically game week 17, Johnston, game week 18, free hit, and then game week 19, get Balbuena in for a bench boost with no Man City players. Well, now, bench boosting with no Man City players doesn't seem like the correct course of action. Maybe I can get away without a defender, but they are going to be quite heavily owned. And more to the point, it's Kevin De Bruyne. I do think, and I know he's blanked a few times recently, I do think now he's arguably a better captain option than Salah because of the fixtures. Because I do think that Man United-Liverpool game could be quite tight. So I might have to ignore the bench boost. And this is kind of my thoughts, but also trying to get you guys to think. If you've stuck rigidly to a strategy, don't be afraid to change it now. Things do change. For a lot of you won't need to, but it's worth doing, right? Obviously, no chips. So some people are now going to try and get through this with no chips, which is perfectly fine. Just remember with your planning, you're obviously going to get extra transfers, right? If you were free hitting, you got 1 in game week 17, no transfers in 18, and just 1 in 19. With this, you've got the ability to roll transfers if you don't use chips, maybe even take a couple of extra hits, right? So if you made 1 transfer in 17, 2 in 18, and 2 in 19, it's going to cost you -8, but over 3 game weeks to build for a double game week, it's maybe not the worst thing to do, especially when part of that now is to bring in Man City players for the blank because they have a double as well. So if you don't use chips, just remember that you've got a few extra transfers to play with because you won't lose them when you free hit. And the other thing that comes into play now is an early wildcard. Now, I really wasn't thinking about this, to be honest. I gave it some brief thoughts, but kind of just ignored it. But the thing is, you could now potentially wildcard in game week 18, bearing in mind, right, and it's not just about the fact that a lot of Game Week 18 players also play in 19, like De Bruyne, Fernandes, etc., it's also that you're going to want to keep those players after Game Week 19. So Man United's fixtures are quite good. Liverpool's are not bad for the first 3. And Man City's are really good up until Game Week 22, which I already said. Grealish, decent as well. So there's lots of players you could wildcard to in Game Week 18 or potentially 17 as well, and put out a good Game Week 18 side and a good Game Week 19 side and potentially still bench boost. Now, a lot of people won't like that idea because they haven't considered the early wildcard. And obviously, if you've just wildcarded in Game Week 16, it's probably not for you. But for anyone that used it early, I do think it's potentially an option. Now, I don't think I'm going to do it, and I'll show you why in a second when I do my tinkering with my team, because I don't think I can get a good Game Week 18 side and a good 19 side and bench boost. I just don't think my team value is high enough. But if it is, you could consider doing that. Now, the first reaction will be, what about down the line when we have more double game weeks? Well, that's a similar situation to now. If you hold the wildcard for later, you're having to use transfers now to build for it, whereas you could use the wildcard now and transfers later on. And ideally, right, the ideal situation is the future double game weeks are built up from any postponement. So it's going to be Spurs, for example, and then, blanks from the FA Cup. And you'd assume that most of the good teams will get through in the FA Cup. So it'll be the likes of Man United, Man City and Liverpool, etc. that have double game weeks anyway, which will already own players from. So it might not be the worst. And also if you wildcard now in Game Week 18, I say now, but I mean in Game Week 18, you save your free hit. So that could be used later on for Game Week 29. So there's lots of things to weigh out. I think the worst thing is that we're less than 24 hours. By the time this goes out, we'll be less than 24 hours from the deadline. And you really need to make these decisions because your transfer in Game Week 17 could be huge. So that's kind of the lay of the land and what's going on. A bit like my chip strategy video, I can't sit here and give a strategy for everyone because it's going to be different. Like I said earlier, you look at the Patreon Slack channel and there's conversations going on all over the place with different strategies, different player targets and stuff like that. So the only thing I can really do is tinker with my team, right? So if I just bring it up here, this is the team as it stands, right? And like I said, my next 2 transfers in 17 and 19, we're planning on being Johnston and Balbuena, right? The product I can still do that, okay? So let's just put these in. Let's say I do Johnston in. There he goes. And let's say I put Balbuena in for Mitchell. This was my original plan. This would have been for free, right? And I'd still have an extra transfer to make if I wanted to take a hit, for example. So I'll put Balbuena in. So that was going to be my bench boost team. And today's kind of news has kind of helped that, right? Because Grealish has got a double now and Martinez has got a double. So my only players without a double are Reguilon and Kane and Calvert-Lewin. So I still have to bench boost with 3 single game week players, which I'm not too bothered about. My key problem is I want Kevin De Bruyne. I'm not really prepared to go into Game Week 19 without him. And I do think he's probably going to be my captain, right? So forget Salah and Fernandes. I think they're really good options too. But I'm probably going to go with Kevin De Bruyne. So he's the one I want. Now, I could take a -8 and do Kane out and Souček out and get De Bruyne in. But the problem I have is I only have 4.7 million to spend. So I can't bench boost with that because it would be Brewster. He might not even play. It's not ideal. Plus, I have to take a -8 to get to it. So I could do that, but I also don't have a City defender, which I want as well. So the other option is to abandon the bench boost. And to be honest, I still don't have a great way of building a team with a City defender and a Man City midfielder, which is De Bruyne. Like Sterling's an option too, but I'm going to go De Bruyne. Let's not even beat around the bush a bit. So this is my team for 17, and I could still free hit an 18, of course. Calvert-Lewin is the one I'm struggling to keep, right? Good fixture this week. I don't really want to get rid of him, to be completely honest. But essentially, if I want to do Souček and Kane out to De Bruyne, who I'll just find here, right down the list below Sterling, and a cheap defender. So let's get him out there. A cheap defender. So realistically, I want this player to be a double game week player, right? So I want it to be, let's just say Ollie Watkins, potentially Antonio, right? We can make all the jokes. Let's just say it's Antonio, right? So in game week 19, I could make that switch. Souček, double game weeker out for Kevin De Bruyne, a better double game weeker, and then a double game week striker in for Kane. The problem is I have to make up 0.5 million. Now, to save myself an extra hit in game week 19, realistically, I want to make the move in game week 17, right? I want to free up that money so that in Game Week 19 I only have to take one hit to get Kevin De Bruyne in. And so the best option is to get rid of Calvert-Lewin for Brewster and just have money in the bank, right? So I could just do that. Do Brewster in 17, bench him, and then he'll just be bench fodder. And I'm not playing the bench boost in Game Week 19. So if I had this team, I'd have Martinez double game week, Dallas, Robertson, Sofao. All my 5 midfielders have got a double game week, and then Antonio and Bamford. This could be Watkins, right? I don't have to decide till Game Week 19. So I feel like this is now, I'll put this down a bit. I feel like now this is probably my ideal play for my team. So I get Kevin De Bruyne in, and then in Game Week 20, if I want to do Reguilon to Diaz or Cancelo, I can. Yes, I miss out on them for the double game week, but I still have 3 double game week defenders. So that's worth bearing in mind. I just really wanted to bench boost this week. So that's one option. The other option is to keep Calvert-Lewin for this week, still make the De Bruyne or Antonio switch in Game Week 19, and then to find 0.5 this week. Again, let's just say this is Ollie Watkins, by the way. He might rise in price now that people are wanting to go for him. If it was Ollie Watkins, I'd only have to find 0.4. Now, I could do Reguilon to Reece James this week, not play Reece James, and hope he's fit for the double. And if he's not, I've still got 3 double game week players. But even if I did that right and I wanted to play James, who do I bench? Sofao or Dallas? It gives me a headache, but it lets me keep Calvert-Lewin. And I'm very close to a bench boost. But again, I have to make two transfers to 2 extra transfers to do it. So basically, I guess what I'm trying to say is I don't think I can bench boost now. I really don't. Not if I want De Bruyne. If I go without De Bruyne, I can stick to my plan. And I have to captain Salah or Fernandes, which is not the worst thing to have to do. But I do think Kevin De Bruyne is so good now that I want him in. I could spend hours here tinkering, right? But even if I wanted to build for Game Week 18 without a free hit, it's very difficult. Because if you look at my team now, I've got Martinez, Reguilon. That's the only 2 defensive players who play in 18. None of these do. Mitchell would, but I'm not convinced he's first choice still. Grealish would, Fernandes. And then Calvert-Lewin and Kane, that's it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I could get De Bruyne in, but how the hell do I do it? Right? I don't want to get rid of Kane before Game Week 18. I don't really want to get rid of Fernandes because he plays in Game Week 18. And if I get rid of Salah, I've got to bring him back. So it's very tricky for me to do that. I can't really build to it. If I was going to wildcard in Game Week 18, it would look something like this. So Johnston in. Let's just put the players in that I really want. So I'd want De Bruyne. Grealish is not a must-have for me, but I can't really stretch to anyone like Rashford or anything like that. And up front, ideally you'd want something like, Antonio or Rodrigo and potentially ditch Dallas. Watkins instead of Kane. This is for Game Week... this is for Game Week 18. So by the way, straight away I'm ditching Kane, which I don't like. And then 5.9, so you want Diaz in Man City. Let me just build this a sec. And then I'm already struggling, to be honest, right? So even now I've got 1, 2. I've only got 2 defenders: De Bruyne, Fernandes, and Grealish, and then Watkins, right? So that's still no good for Game Week 18. I need to try and fit Kane or Son in there. Obviously, one of these players could be Son, but it would have to be Salah, so I'd lose money on buying him back. And I've still got to work out how to get another defender in. Now, there's ways around it, right? John Stones could be the one, but if Man City have got those good fixtures, am I really going to rely on John Stones keeping on starting every single time? This will give me an easier way to get someone in for the blank, right? Someone for 4.9 million from the Game Week 18 teams. It's probably possible, but it's not really anyone I want long term. So I personally am struggling to put together a bench boost team that's good with a wildcard in Game Week 18, right? I just don't think I can do it with my team. Even if I ditched Dallas and did Rodrigo up front, just to eke out some more funds, I guess maybe Dyer, for example. Dyer might be someone that you want, because you've got transfers in Game Week 19. I hope you're following this. This must be a nightmare to follow. I'm sure most people have switched off by now. Another 4.9 or another 4.5, right? Let's say it's Balbuena, okay? So let's say this is my wildcard team. So this would give me 1, 2, 3 players for Game Week 18. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So still only 7, but I would have a bench boost team for 19. But I'm without my wildcard. I've saved my free hit, but I'm without a wildcard. And I think I just prefer doing it the other way. So basically for me, it boils down to two things. Do I want to get De Bruyne in, sell Calvert-Lewin and triple captain, or do I want to bench boost? Right, and if I bench boost, I'm without Man City. And the problem is, okay, let's just go through one more thing. If I bench boost with these players I mentioned before, so let me just put them in. Johnston and who's the other one? Balbuena. So let's say I put these two back in. How do I get to Kevin De Bruyne after this? And I know people are going to be saying, why do you want Kevin De Bruyne so much? But I just think the fixtures are so good, and I'm not writing him off. So even if I did this move in game week 20, I'm still getting De Bruyne in. I'm missing the double game week to get De Bruyne in, and I'd have to get Brewster then. So I could get him afterwards. I could bench boost and then get De Bruyne for game week 20, which was the original plan, by the way. But I just feel like I really want him for game week 19. So that is my decision. I think get the spreadsheets back out and make sure you plan. I think the only real thing is here to do, if you're thinking about, you know, what the hell you do with your chips and stuff, is see if the Villa, Man United and Man City news has changed your opinion on which players you want and that you can get. And if not, just stick to the original plan. And if they have, start sticking in the spreadsheet the different players and working out your transfers. Bearing in mind, you've only got one more week for one transfer for 17, no transfer for 18 if you use your free hit, and then just one for 19. So you've got to put all that into perspective. So that is my dilemma. I bench boost and don't have Kevin De Bruyne. Or I get Kevin De Bruyne and I triple captain instead. That's pretty much my dilemma, and I will have to decide by tomorrow. I wish I could give you more concrete info on exactly what I'm going to do and all that stuff, but this news is so fresh. There's so much to think about. Right now I'm thinking get De Bruyne and triple captain, because I just think the fixtures are so good, and I can bench boost on a wild card later on and build towards my next double game week team. And so be it. Like if the bench boost doesn't work out, then so be it. I'll just have to leave it. I'm not hugely against getting rid of Calvert-Lewin, because I just don't think in the grand scheme of things right now he's the player that I need. I just don't like the fact that I have to abandon the bench boost, right, when I was so close to it. But Man City just look really desirable, and I don't want to have to be thinking about transfers down the line, not getting them into like game week 20, 21 or whatever it might be. So I'll leave the video there. I don't even know if that was helpful, but I'll upload it anyway. If it was, please do give it a like and hit that subscribe button if you're new around here. Like I said, there's so many different strategies and way you can play this. It's impossible for me to sit here and to tell you exactly what to do. But that's kind of my thought process. I really want Man City. Villa have helped me out a little bit now that I can just keep them and not have to worry about getting rid of them because they don't have a double. It's just whether or not I get De Bruyne. So hit that like button, hit subscribe, leave me a comment below, and I will catch you tomorrow for sure. No more videos today. Tomorrow for captaincy and deadline stream.